mojitos anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked the mojito. That's a good choice.
Mojito is the way to go. I'm like, how can you go wrong with the deliciousness that is the mojito? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
I realize that I have a whiteboard, so I want to be able to show, however briefly.
Oh my! Look at you, how fancy you are.
Hey, so we're live. Introduce yourself.
I see that. Hello, everybody. I'm Teri. I will be accompanying you all in this drink-a-thon. Drink-a-thon? Are we calling it drink-a-thon? How about we go with a evening of libations while we talk Star Trek and encourage people to do the same in a grown-up fashion. We're grown-ups making grown-up decisions.
Yeah, we're not like those guys, those kids on Deep Space Nine always getting into trouble. We're more like the parents who are like putting people's lives at risk and starting wars and, you know, duping whole governments. We're grown-ups.
I love how that happens, right? Those kids eventually grow up and get drinking problems of their own if the future is to be believed. So
the kids are so much more responsible. It's like Disney. The Jake Sisko is like he becomes a writer, a journalist, a novelist. And Nog is like, you know, instead of like duping people out of their money, what if I help people by joining the military and sacrificing myself for greater causes? And like,
you know,
it's in your stupid stuff.
No big, whatever. So yeah, let's start mixing. I feel a little bit thirsty right now.
So hi, I'm Joe Sondow, and I run Twitter accounts like Riker Googling and Picard Tips, which I want to bring up again later. But first, I'm in my kitchen, which is a change, and it's Towel Day because it's the 25th, and it's a celebration of Douglas Adams' work. I don't know why it landed on May 25th. It just did.
Right.
Today is International Towel Day, so I got my towels, which also makes me look more like a bartender, because when it's towel day and you're mixing drinks, this is what you do, even if they're already dry, just to look like
right.
And here, Litorco. And Teri, what's your thing?
My thing is making videos on YouTube about toy soldiers, essentially. I make videos on YouTube about toy soldiers. I also have a Twitter account that I've sorely been neglecting as of late, but I really should get back on the horse. And more or less, I'm a amateur in the public eye.
That's right.
What I call myself.
Yeah, and I'm into some of the same stuff that Teri's into. I just spent the weekend at Kubla Khan, which is a board gaming convention. I saw all these interesting war games that I did not take part in, but I played a lot of board games, and I learned a lot of board games that I wanted to learn, including Battlestar Galactica, which I've had on my phone for a long time, but I've never figured out how to play.
It's a great game if you like making enemies. Like my favorite thing to do is just accuse people like out of the blue for no reason that they're the Cylon, you know, because anyone's a Cylon, right? Yeah, that's what a Cylon would do. Any move, you just pick on one person. And also probably why I have a very specific group of friends who all like wargaming, because we're competitive like that. It's weird.
So I'm going to ceremonially remove my Kubicon bracelet that I've had on for literally 4 days.
Wow.
They wouldn't let us take it off. They just said that if you... we don't want to sneak anybody else in. So there we go. My shackles are gone. They were set it. They assured us it's hot tub safe. That was their phrase. They're like,
hot tub safe. What kind of con is this? Actually, no, I shouldn't say that because I've been to enough cons with enough hot tubs. It's the hot tub is the place where you can like let loose and actually, you know, talk about how you really feel about certain games, right?
There was no hot tub. Well, there was. I mean, it was a hotel, but I don't remember anyone going to a hot tub. You know, it's slightly sweaty older white guys for the most part, and then there's like one woman per table if you're lucky, and that's it wasn't really a hot tub society. But it was really friendly and it was really fun, and there's like more of them in the area that I want to go to.
That's awesome.
I learned a lot of games, and it's really easy to make friends playing board games.
Oh, totally, 100%. And also by, hint, being in a hot tub. That's, that's a way to make friends. I know for a fact. So I'm muddling my drink. I'm following the recipe, but I don't actually have like a small muddler. This is my rolling pin. I'm gonna crush into my glass.
The muddler's the hard part. So I found that hot tubs are a little bit of an awkward place to make friends because everyone's in their bikinis and they're like, "Why are you looking at me? Who are you?" I don't know. Or maybe it's an America-Canada thing. So this is the recipe that we're doing today. We're making Spock's Mind Meld Mojitos. This is from the top Google result for Star Trek drinks, if you want to look it up. It is 2 ounces of Hendrick's gin. Hendrick's gin is some kind of special gin that has the flavors of, as I recall, what are their flavors? Do you have a Hendrick's gin there, Teri?
I'm drinking Bombay because I don't like Hendrick's. It's too much botanicals for me, I find. I'm not a botanical gin kind of person, but if you're into botanical gins, it's high quality gin. Basically, most gins, if you're into botanicals, it's very juniper-y, and then they'll add other things to it if you're, depending on what the brand is. I don't quite know what Hendrick's has in it.
I'll read it to the camera when I pull it out of the freezer. It's something weird, and I haven't had to try it, specifically what the recipe called for. 2 ounces of Hendrick's gin, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 6 to 8 fresh mint leaves, muddled, 3 slices of cucumber, and soda water. And I'm gonna get through that. Teri's already starting, so I gotta catch up. So we're gonna do. We're gonna start by.
It's only because I'm an alcoholic, Joe. It's only because I like drinking so much that I'm already ahead. Right? I'm an overachiever when it comes to alcohol.
You know exactly what to do, and I'm like, right? What's the first sentence on this thing? All right. So we got mint. I got a lot. 6 to 8.
That's a lot of mint. That's a lot of mojitos worth of mint, anyways.
This is gonna be like the next 8 weeks of mojitos.
It's perfect season for it, though.
I'm gonna do 8. Are you using a tall glass or a short glass?
Well, I'm pouring into a short glass, but I also have one of these strainer thingies that I shake in, so it doesn't matter at this point. I like smush stuff. It makes me feel powerful, like I'm a man. I crush things with sticks. Woo!
Do. That's what we do. We crush things with sticks.
I crush things with sticks.
So she's using something super heavy, a rolling pin, which makes a lot of sense. I don't have a rolling pin. I don't know what to use. I could use a barbell.
Put it in a glass. It'll be easier to crush with the sugar and the lime in the glass. Trust me.
Do I muddle it with the sugar already? Do I add the sugar first? Or
yeah, use the handle of your spoon, Joe. Put the sugar in, and the sugar will help grind up those leaves and the lime. It all kind of goes nicely together. Muddle it all together.
So I'm not nearly as quick as I imagined. I need a peeler. Did you peel your thing? Your cucumber?
Yeah, smush it all. Smush it all up.
All right, I'm just peeling a very small 4-inch cucumber. Nothing to write home about.
Ooh, that's good. Woo! All right.
You haven't mentioned that.
I'm enjoying this already. This is a good place. We need to do this more. I feel like we need to do this more. I don't understand how this, I would say that alcohol makes the clarity of the mind, less so. I mean, sometimes you can feel like you have true clarity, but it doesn't feel like a decision Spock would make to drink some mojitos.
It doesn't.
I'll question the branding a little bit.
So you're saying that when you have alcohol, you think more clearly?
Oh, way less, way less. I don't think alcohol is a choice that Spock would make, right? Even when his parents, J.J. Abrams movies again, his parents died, his planet crumbled, all that other fun stuff. He did not reach for a drink. That would be the first thing I would do in that situation. But I'm not Spock.
What about Ponfar time? Remember when when Tuvok was in Ponfar and everybody was freaking out because he was going to kill everyone because he was so horny, and they're like, Tuvok, it's okay to use the holodeck for porn. That's what it's for. We don't talk about it, but that's really literally what it's for. And he's like, okay, I guess, but I feel like I'm cheating on my wife. I don't like cheating on my wife. It's not fun. If you order me to go have an orgasm in the holodeck, I will obey because I'm a Starfleet officer and I have to do what's right. and his last line is something like, "It was satisfactory, but it was a good substitute for my wife." And they're like, yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I feel like he might have needed a drink because he was stressed out. He did not want to do it with a hologram. It was gross to him.
You know, I don't know why that would seem so. I don't know. You could program it to do your thing, right? Like, you know, I don't feel like that's such a bad thing.
Oh, they had really polite sex.
Really like, polite sex.
Very logical.
Yeah. Orderly. Yeah. Like, they followed the project management, like, Six Sigma black belt methodology for
Vulcan
relations. For Vulcan relations.
So, muddle, mint, limes, peeled cucumber, and sugar. Lime. So are you dropping the limes in? Like,
yeah.
So I cut these 3 lime wedges, which is what it says. No, it says 5 lime wedges. I'm cutting more lime wedges. Basically,
I cut my lime in half and I squeezed it and then I shoved the rest of it in there and I mushed it.
Your experience, you're doing it much more practically. I'm doing it literally, like what it is. It's just completely ridiculous because it doesn't solve anything. And because I want to see what happens. Because I feel like I'm a little bit of like a whip. Like, I'm just putting things together, and then I'm going to incant. We do have an incantation for this, because it's a mind meld mojito. It's not just a mojito.
My mojito to your mojito, Joe.
Nice. I was going to do the original, but yes, my mojito, your mojito. My limes to your limes.
Oh my gosh, this is
Okay, so the limes are helping to crush the mint. We want to crush a little bit, or what they call muddle, in order to get the flavor out of it.
It all works together because it helps dissolve the sugar and stuff.
Right. So am I supposed to leave the limes in? Because that seems like a really bad idea.
Well, you throw the you strain it. That's why, right? At the end, you strain it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much junk is at the bottom of this thing.
Oh, okay. You don't leave some of the mint crap in there?
Yeah, because you're shaking the whole thing together, right? So I'm dumping ice from my ice bucket into my little shaker.
Good for you.
I do the shaky thing. I don't make a lot of shaken drinks, but, you know, sometimes it just looks classy on the bar there with the rest of your stuff.
Right. That's right. We're going to strain it, which I don't know how I'm going to do yet, but it does say strain. Oh, wait for 20 seconds. Crushed ice. I'm going to crush ice with a hammer. That's that'll work. Add crushed ice. So add the Hendrix gin. So so this is my muddled drink so far. Looks really delicious.
Oh, it's good.
And this reach. The gin.
Whew. Oh, that smells good. All right. Mojitos. Whoops. I should probably
Here we go.
not be dropping the lids of everything all over the place.
Bottled in Scotland. Their slogan is "It's not for everyone," which is, you know, kind of off-putting. But
a little off-putting. You know what though? If you like it's very botanical. It is very botanical.
Traditional botanicals. It includes traditional botanicals such as juniper, coriander, and citrus peel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me take a whiff of this. Let's see how long it takes me to open it.
Mm-hmm.
Never had this before. I don't think I'm a gin person, but the more I mix cocktails, the more I'm like, I guess I am a gin person.
Gin is amazing in anything mixed. It's so good.
I like botanicals. I like putting things on my hair that smell like flowers. What's this? So 2 ounces is the small thing up here is 1 ounce. So 1 ounce.
Oh, so and good.
1 more ounce for Leonard Nimoy. And stopper that sucker. Then add crushed ice and stir. Ice.
to shake this up while you stir. I had to bash that ice with a hammer.
Yeah. Where's my hammer? This one. Hammer.
To this seriousness of crushing the ice and everything, eh?
The ice has to be crushed. This is the recipe. So here comes ice. The proper way to do this would be to have a really nice fridge that crushes ice, or to use a blender, but I didn't think that far ahead. And I thought it would be slightly funny to hammer the heck out of this. Awesome. This is good TV.
This is
Crushed ice. Oh, add crushed ice and stir. How did you crush your ice?
that was soda water. I pre-crushed my ice with my husband. He took care of that for me because, you know.
My husband? You used your husband to blend instrument?
Yeah, he smashes stuff up with big sticks too.
Nice. Okay, so I don't have a husband to do it, so I just did it myself.
You have to do it yourself then. Do it yourself. Oh my gosh.
It's just unbelievably cold to the touch.
It is very cold.
Because it's so much surface area, it's hurting my hand.
Oh my gosh, Joe.
How much crushed ice do I use? Doesn't say.
Doesn't
Just
say.
Crushed ice. Add crushed ice and stir. I think I need more than that. Let's go.
That's good.
That'll do.
I'm convinced this is the way that this is gonna be my summer drink now. I think I'll just make pictures of this because this is great. That looks. You're ready to go.
How are you?
You're ready, Joe.
You got a strainer, right?
Do you have it? Did you strain? Are you straining it?
I don't have a strainer. I'm gonna think of something. It says wait 20 seconds. So let's talk about something for 20 seconds while it melts. And then strain into tall glass and top with soda water.
Top with soda water, and then you're good to go.
I kind of wish I'd made 2 of these.
You know what though? It feels a little bit laborious, like for one drink.
Yeah.
But if you had a blender and you could like really do it right, it seems kind of like you could do it in a pitcher. Like,
yeah,
that feels more worth it.
Right. When you're making one, it's like a big show.
Yeah.
Little cup.
And I'm not getting tips for making my own drinks, right? It's not like a bartender who can like do the juggling thing and be like, "Woo! You gotta tip me more because I can throw this pitcher."
Oh,
like, woo! Look at me, I'm fancy. No, that's not what I do. Notice how that bottle never left my hands at any point because it's humongous and I'm scared to drop it. That is the story of my life. Actually, I think I could title the autobiography of Teri Litorco with that. It's humongous and I'm afraid to drop it. Teri Litorco's story.
You're starting your autobiography with the word "it," and we're left to wonder.
Right? That's exactly the point. It creates intrigue.
Find out what she's referring to. There's some noun involved. It's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
All right.
So strain, top with soda water.
I haven't strained yet, and it's been 20 seconds. How am I gonna?
What do you have? Okay, take a glass, a smaller glass than that one.
Not the slotted spoon.
That's perfect.
All right, I'm doing it. Here we go.
Got it. Boom. Solid.
So strained, so good.
Top with soda water.
Tiny drink. It's so tiny.
Well, because the gin is so strong. That Hendrick's gin is very, very aromatic.
Oh.
So you probably want a lot of soda water in it.
A lot of soda water?
You want to top it up.
Here's how much drink there is in the drink.
Yeah, it's comparable, and then you top with soda water.
And I hope that the sugar melted well.
Oh, it totally does. If you're mushing it with the lime juice and stuff, it actually breaks down pretty quickly. Don't spray it all over yourself like I sprayed it all over myself.
Ooh, I see.
Look at you.
I'm okay. And then how much are we gonna do? Do we double the volume?
Just top it up, man. About a dime from the top. You're good to go.
All right.
That's
Okay.
it?
More?
Take a sip and then see if you want to add more, because that's always a good idea.
Mm-hmm. More stuff.
That gin is strong.
I like the bubbles. Mmm, limey.
It's limey. Oh, so good. I think the sugar also evens out the gin. That tanginess that's in the gin a bit. So, you know.
Meld mojito. Okay, Teri. My mind to your mind. My thoughts to your thoughts.
My gin to your gin, sir.
My lines to your lines.
So good. Oh, so good.
And that is the recipe. One more time for the people watching who want to try it. Spock's Mind Meld Mojito. 2 ounces of Hendrick's gin, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 6 to 8 fresh mint leaves, 3 slices of cucumber. You muddle the mint, cucumber, and sugar. And did I leave the limes off of this list? I did.
Yeah, you just need some limes.
Lime wedges. So I already had a shot or two before I did this, and that's why I can't write. There's limes. Add limes, muddle, then add 2 ounces of Hendrick's gin, which contains botanicals that Teri doesn't care for, like juniper, coriander, citrus peel. And
it's really strong. Like, you have to really like botanical gin. And botanical gin is...
I dig.
I don't know. You dig it? You dig it?
It's good.
It is super good. Gin...
I could do with more sugar. That's just me.
Probably. Depends on how much lime you use, and it also depends on how bitter your gin is a little bit.
Yeah. If this is what Spock drinks, then I could consider, opening my mind to what Spock drinks.
Well, if he can't open his mind to doing it in the Hollow Suites, like...
Yeah, well, that was Tuvok, but same problem.
Oh, that's Tuvok. Yeah, that's right. Same problem.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, now we got our drinks.
Yeah.
We move now to another room, but I wanted to let me let you think about this while we move to another room. So I want to do a Riker Googling tweet right now.
Okay.
If you don't know, I do a Twitter account called Riker Googling, which is what would Riker search for on the internet if there had been Google when they made Star Trek. Even what we know about Riker today. So I'm going to give you 3 potential Riker Googling queries.
Okay.
And I want you to pick one, and I will tweet it right away.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
So first one, Klingon mating ritual, uncensored.
Okay.
Vulcan neck pinch tutorial.
All right.
Didn't want to know that.
Right?
And this one's a thinker, but it may be my favorite. Find my comm badge. So give it a think. I'm gonna move my computer.
That's tough. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I can. Oh man, find my comm badge.
It's a lot of responsibility.
That is a lot of responsibility, Joe. Like, you throw that down on a girl, like, oh my gosh.
After a drink too.
Right?
Have a drink so that you're all ready to make tough decisions.
Right?
And here we go. So let's review. The choices are Klingon mating ritual uncensored, Vulcan neck pinch tutorial, and find my comm badge.
I can't help but love Find My Comm Badge because
Said that.
Because like it's so perfect. It's so perfect.
I like that.
It's so Riker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because like tomorrow's episode that we're talking about, not to give anything away too much, about for Star Trek Hour is Second Chances, where Riker, finds the clone, I guess, of himself from 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And It's the episode, I joke about this all the time. It's the episode where you get to know just how unlikable Riker is because he doesn't even like himself. And
I know, right? He really doesn't.
he doesn't like himself. And Data says, Riker's easy to get along with, but who really does actually like William Riker? So
including William Riker.
William Riker.
He loves getting what he wants, and he's real proud that he can. But he, once he's faced with meeting himself, so this is one of the things that we'll talk about tomorrow. We shouldn't talk too much now, but it's part of it's just an existential question of what if you met your twin that you never knew about, or what if you met, even worse, your copy who split off from you only 8 years ago, and you're a fully grown 40-year-old, and most of your life's the same, your experience is the same, you're the same person, except for the last 8 years. What do you do you want to give him a hug?
Well, I know what my husband would want to do, but we won't get into that.
But it's not about...
because Deanna didn't want in on that, boy, girl.
Nobody
right?
mentioned it. Beverly didn't even mention it. Beverly's like, so did you do him yet? Did you do it? Like, when are you going to do it? And I would expect her at some point to at least make a joke. At least, make her, like, have you fantasized about,
Right.
It never comes up. They're too healthy. They're too much like, oh, I know Harry broke up with him, but there's another guy here. It was very, very tame. I feel like if they did that today, that would be the first thing.
They totally did though. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when Xander got split, Anya, what was the first thing Anya was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Come on, let's do this. And
that was later, right?
That was totally like.
So society was more openly sexual on TV.
Yeah.
Also, I think Joss Whedon maybe was just more sexual than the writers of TNG. TNG's pretty uptight.
Very, very. I mean, I think they might have gotten. There's a lot of hinting at like hetero. There's a lot of heteronormativity, and that's just a general theme.
Well, that's that's one of their many old-fashioned bigotry things, but
yeah. So that's just a common theme in Trek.
They acknowledge that sex is like an important thing on Trek, but a lot of the time it's like it's not mentioned. It's
not mentioned like that. So it's interesting. I think it's interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that conversation tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And it's a really I think it's one of the more overlooked episodes in terms of like fun value, because there's a lot of fun to be had there. But it doesn't ever show up on like the top like 100 lists or whatever, just because Jonathan Frakes acting against an empty version of someone who's supposed to be himself. It's not so great.
Right.
I think a little bit. It's a little wooden. Some of it's a little wooden.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it detracts from how great the story is, how fun it is, how fun that potential universe could be. And I think that's a shame. I think that's a shame.
So we'll be talking on camera tomorrow, right?
Yes, we will. I have a hard stop, unfortunately, but I will be there. I will be on camera. I will be chatting it up and hanging out.
Stop at the hour. We shouldn't go to an hour and a half, as tempting as it is. Let people, get what they're expecting.
Yeah.
We use this service called Nerf, which lets you organize your conversation with a hashtag. And for those who don't know, we run Star Trek Hour, which is a hashtag, on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And we talk about an episode or a topic every week. And tomorrow is Second Chances, which is an episode of Next Generation where Riker has a transporter clone. And they have the same beard length. And he hasn't gone completely insane in 8 years by himself. And all kinds of things that we'll be talking about. Mostly it seems to be about Deanna and poker, and like the fact that Riker doesn't like other Rikers being around because he's a sexual predator and doesn't like
sorry. As a thematic element in Star Trek, sexual predation is a common one, ironically enough. Like, I can name multiple characters who exhibit sexual predator kind of characteristics. Like, yes, Will Riker, of course, Captain Kirk, absolutely Julian Bashir. Holy smokes, that man.
Well, he's really just trying to get a girlfriend. He's just so awkward about it. He's just so bad at taking hints.
Well, it's also like there's this thing called like, you know, doctor-patient like relationship. There's a structure of power there. And when you hit on your patients, it just gets
supposed to do. Like, he's the doctor. He's there for years. Like, how is he not going to date his patients? Everyone's his patient. Everyone knows is his patient. It's so weird. What else is he going to do? It's like Cisco was like, I can't date anyone on the station that I control. That would be sexual harassment of a sort. Like,
absolutely.
And that is kind of how he feels for a while until he meets Cassidy, and he's like, okay, fine. I guess she's sort of not in Starfleet. I can date her.
She's a criminal, actually, just to prove the point. She's a criminal. Surprise.
Listen to me anyway. My son wants me to date her. I guess it's okay.
It's okay.
Not as cool as my dead wife, but, you know, she was a god anyway, and that was... She was a god the whole time.
God, the whole time. I mean, like, oh, man. There's just... Yeah, but, like, it's nice to see, like, the Picard and Beverly relationship always seemed, man, it's easy fodder, but it never felt like sexual harassment. It was always like her leading, right? It never felt that way. But you watch just a little bit of what happens in a Julian Focus episode where there's another woman, and you're just like, this is really sketchy. I'm not comfortable with that at all.
Which is, doesn't he date, he dates the double girl, the Lita. Lita for a little while. He
dated Lita for like a little bit at the beginning. That's when that's the time where I talk about Julian Bashir, the friendless guy. His only friend was a Cardassian traitor. Like, nobody else hung out with him ever.
Right.
And then when they kind of break up, and it's like not even explained or anything. But then he dates the patient, the genetically enhanced patient. He treats her and pulls her out of the like kind of catatonic state. Yeah, well, he tries to pursue her, and then she just leaves the station. She's like, I can't stay here.
Poor Julian.
Poor Julian. He dates the Starfleet officer who's from a low gravity planet who can't like walk on the station on her own, and then make her walk. Like, is the doctor who takes a like paraplegic and gives them the gift of walking, and then he tries to date her. Like, it's just
and he's like, how about, you know, instead of like paying your HMO, like, what if we just that would be like, you know, how you like pay me. Right?
It's so, and Thor, I think, I don't know if it perpetuates the nice guy friend zone thing, because I feel like Geordi got that same kind of treatment, like the nice guy friend zone thing. That's why, like, you get these relatively nice guys who end up with a lot of female friends and who end up with really weird, like, relationship issues. Like, you know, Geordi LaForge falls in love with a hologram. It's the same kind of deal. It just, it doesn't...
They're both, like, they're nerds. Like, even...
They're nerds, yeah.
Like, Riker is not a nerd.
No.
He is a regular macho jock living on a spaceship, because everyone lives on a spaceship in that world.
Yeah.
He doesn't really study the computers and the whatnots. That's up to somebody else. But like knowing sciences, yeah, that's Bashir and LaForge, and and
you see a little bit with Harry Kim as well. Like, you get this weird kind of situation with these guys who are kind of like, they're nice guys, they're depicted very nice, and they something happens in their relationships, and it just doesn't, I feel bad for them, but at the same time it perpetuates that narrative of the nice guy friend zone.
What is that? So the writers must feel, I mean, they're either projecting their own stuff, or they're just kind of looking at stereotypes of what they think people are like, and they're making these archetypes of like, yeah, he's a nice guy, he's in the that's how women are. Women, you know? never seem to want to date you when all you have to do is talk about your work.
Right? But that's I think that when it comes to, I mean, when it comes to that kind of narrative, I don't think that that sort of narrative you would see in Trek now. It's just, especially at the time, like I forget sometimes how long ago it was, right? Like how long ago these episodes of TNG actually aired. We're looking at closer to 20 years than we are to 10 years. So it's just like, well, things were different. The idea of relationships were different. The idea of the nice guy friend zone meme didn't quite exist yet. We had a hard time as a culture articulating that, let alone being able to actually dissect it and say, you know what, it's kind of a myth, but you have to, it has a way both ways, right?
Hard time critiquing it. We definitely had it. It was everywhere. It was a plot of multiple movies. It was the plot of, most of the 80s movies that were about
geekdom.
Like Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
Before he became a jock, he was a nerd. You're either a nerd or you're a jock. And only now, 30 years after Revenge of the Nerds, are people like, Revenge of the Nerds is a misogynistic movie that is basically about people in power keeping other people who are not in power down. And the people in power are the nerds. And the people not in power are the women. They're like, oh yeah. They weren't powerless. They were the assholes.
Oh, well, I mean, it's one of those things where, I think Star Trek, when I look at the way Star Trek is portrayed now, when you look at the way that even in fiction and in extended universe areas, and seeing how, or even the new movies even, and seeing how you can still take that universe, it's still just as good. And it's when you impose these more modern, I don't know, thought ideas just onto this universe, it still stands up. So I don't think it's the universe. I just think it's the writing. There's moments where the writing fails, and there's moments where it's just like you kind of watch, it's like when you watch Looney Tunes and you're like, holy smokes, is that ever racist? Or you're like, Disney movies, Peter Pan, can we talk about how racist Peter Pan is for a second? Because holy smokes, is it ever racist? But I think that's one of those things.
Pirates? No, I know what you're talking about.
But I mean, I talk about you can look at the Battlestar Galactica reboot compared to the original series.
On Netflix, and there's no way to watch it online for cheap anymore, and I'm sad because I want all my friends to watch it again so that we can play and live in that world. But anyway.
But see, I was one of those people who bought it and then bought it again. It's like all those copies of Firefly you buy. Yeah, that was like me, and I would lend it out and I would never see it again, and then I would buy it again. That was season 1 of Galactica. I did the same thing where I would lend it out and I would never see it again, and then I would buy a new copy and then lend that out and never see it again and be like, oh, damn you people, because it's so good. And there's something really interesting and really just something that's really interesting about the universe that allows you to interrogate these ideas in modern times. And I'm sure 20 years from now we're going to be looking at stuff that we've made now and being like, holy smokes, I can't believe we thought that way. This is crazy.
Well, I mean, you could just Battlestar, and if you had a different standard for what should be on TV, you'd be like, hey, look, at all the white men in power, and look how many men there are versus women, and look, there's no Latinas, or there's almost no black people, and one black person killed herself. Okay, it's all if you look at it through that lens, you start going, well, it's kind of messed up, isn't it?
Well,
it's not even. It's like the distant future or the distant past. It's not our problems, and yet there they are, same old, same old.
Just to give you an idea, the most racially diverse movie with one of the largest grosses this year happens to be Fast and the Furious. Now, isn't that a little bit sad? We make these really thoughtful and interesting, interrogating universes as science fiction fans and nerds, and we have this world available to us, and it's the jocks and the car car heads who are like, you know what, diversity's cool. Like, let's represent everyone.
Happening. I mean, it's more about numbers than anything else. If they did it, that's cool. If no one else did it, that's not so cool.
And it's interesting to me. I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what would Star Trek look like if there were more, like, if it was more racially diverse, if it was actually more reflective of what the population looked like, right? Or
in the way it ought to be in the far future, rather than just reflect the time it's made. But it has to reflect the time where it's made for marketing reasons, because that's how studios work. It's how marketing executives think. So I was actually searching for Battlestar Galactica today because it's off Netflix. It's not on Amazon Prime Instant Watch for free, and I was a little disappointed. And while I was searching, I saw this article about when it went off Netflix, and it linked to a Portlandia sketch that I hadn't seen that was about Battlestar Galactica. That was just like the two main characters, the man and the woman from Portlandia, who are like, they watch a Battlestar Galactica episode, and they've never seen it, and they have the DVDs, and they watch one, and then they cancel their dinner date with their friends, and they watch another one, and then they like cancel something else, and then they stay up all night watching like the rest of like 8 more, and like calling sick to work, and then they stay on the couch and they watch another 20 episodes, and then she like loses her job because she's missed 3 days of work in a row, and she's like, oh, I'm fired. Okay, fine. Put the next one on. And then they spend the next like week watching the rest of it. Their power gets shut off, and they have to like call the power company because they need to watch the next episode. And they watch more, and then they're like, okay, let's watch the next one. They're like, that's it. There's no more. We finished it. And they freak out because there has to be more. And they try to find the writer. They look him up, and they go to his house. And he's not the writer, but he has a name, and they're harassing this guy and writing more episodes of Battlestar, and he's never seen the show. And then they like finish, and his wife hates them, and they're like stuck at his house writing episodes of Battlestar Galactica. And then they get a table read of their new episode that they've made, and they have like a local actor, and the guy who played Gaius Baltar is there. The guy is there in the kitchen. They're reading this terrible script.
Oh my gosh! Oh, see, that's so. See, I haven't seen that skit. I love Portlandia. I'm gonna be looking it up after this because it's that is just hilarious. That is just too hilarious. Sorry.
It's very satisfying. It was like, yeah. That's what binge watching is like.
That is what binge watching is like. And I think I watched Battlestar Galactica. I caught it in the 2nd season, and when I got into the 1st season, I just started binge watching it.
It's not that good if you don't binge watch it.
It isn't. No.
It's really slow, and if you binge watch it, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's like so good. Occasionally it gets too depressing, but mostly it's just like stunning, and you just like, oh wow, there's so much. But
it's like House of Cards, though, right? Like shows made for Netflix are made for Netflix. You binge watch them because they're good that way. I had to wait every week for it. I would be like not interested. I'll wait till it comes out on DVD or whatever. Whatever.
You have a new thing called Between, which I think is about tweens or something. It's about young teenagers who they're immune to the problem of the world. So like they're the ones who have to save the day, something like that. And what's interesting about it is that Netflix is releasing it 1 episode per week. So they're going back to the model of TV where we're all going to talk about it at work and on Twitter at the same time, because we're not going to be like, what episode are you up to? Everyone's up to episode 4 now. We talk about episode 4 for a week, and then we talk about our predictions for episode 5. So they're trying that out, and I imagine that they'll probably end up with both models, and it'll be up to the director. I think it's just part of like marketing. It's like how do you want people to see the show? Do you want it to be 1 year at a time or 1 episode at a time? And even that doesn't really matter, because like without a TV schedule, a season is just a 23-hour episode.
Yeah.
1 a year, that's fine.
And I think, I don't know, I love the, like, if I were to, and maybe this is what it is for me, my singular hope now is to see Star Trek come back and eventually see it on some sort of like specific, not necessarily a network, but specifically like a format like Netflix or something like that, where the fight for it isn't as weird. It isn't as awkward as like the CBS Paramount kind of weird relationship that they have now. You could conceivably bypass it with something like that. How they're doing, like, they're continuing this franchise on, I guess they're continuing on that MMO, right? Like, Star Trek Universe, right?
Oh yeah. That's the only new Star Trek content.
Yeah.
Story past Voyager's timeline.
And I don't know. I want to see interesting things now. I'm at a point where I'm like, you know what? You know, it would be a good show. I would love to see a Section 31, like from the origin story, kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Section 31 early days. Or that.
New. I mean, there's Section 31. You know, Captain Worf. He's still, you know, like still trying to make Captain Worf an idea that people take seriously. But it's just the two studios. I forget which two. It's Paramount.
It's Paramount and it's CBS.
And they made their licensing so muddled that they're kind of like, I can't do it without you, but you can't do it without me, but we're not going to do it. And I read that they're basically like, they're just gun shy, because when they tried to do something, when they did bad movies like Insurrection and stuff, they didn't make money. So they're like, well, we're not doing that. We're going to do the thing that makes money. And we're not going to do this distracting thing like Enterprise. That didn't work. So we're not going to do this TV Star Trek thing. It's distracting people from the focus, which is the new J.J. Abrams movies that make money. And we don't want to distract from that. And I'm like, you know, I saw a lot of Star Wars board games. I saw 3 distinct brands of Star Wars board games popular at KubelCon. Not a single Star Trek one, except maybe Star Trek Catan once. There was no Star Trek Attack Wing. It was Star Trek is not in the zeitgeist right now, and it's because there's not a lot of promotion about it.
And that's the other thing. Like, so here's the thing about Star Trek Attack Wing, which makes it really, again, it's interesting because the licensing for all these licensed items. So you see the Star Trek beers, you see the Star Trek Attack Wing game, and that stuff. That license comes from CBS. So when you look at the game's content itself, the game makes scenarios based on the shows that were on CBS. It doesn't reference the movies whatsoever. In terms of the new J.J. Abrams stuff, that is not in the game. Yeah. So you can't actually play any of those little items in there, which is like, it's an interesting thing to kind of get your mind around, in that I will only see content from this and this, but I won't see content for this game that I play in this universe from this, this, and this. And I don't know. It is, you're so right in that it's so muddled. And here's the other thing. I love Star Trek Attack Wing. I love it because it's, you know, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I also own all 3 of those Star Wars games. I own X-Wing, and I own Star Trek Armada, and I own Imperial Assault. And oh my gosh, will I continue to buy expansions for those other games as well? Specifically Imperial Assault, because I like the models and I want to paint them. But
there's nothing inferior about them. It's just, the reason that there's a market for so many more of them is marketed. People care about what they're marketed to, and what they care about what they're marketed for. And the Star Wars franchise is not just like because the new movies are coming out, it's because they have all these cartoons. Like every 5 years, like there's a new 3D animated cartoon about Star Wars, and they're pretty good. I wouldn't say they're like the best in the world, but they're really good. And the Star Trek franchise could totally work with that, but no one's doing it.
Like, I can't.
Seriously.
I can't. So one of the things is my daughter knows I'm really into Star Trek. She knows Star Trek the game because I have all these game pieces. She understands like starships. She sees them. She sees me playing with them. I can't actually talk to her about the universe because there's nothing out there that is accessible to her. You talk Star Wars with her, and like my husband and I have effectively started showing her the movies, and we're at a point where we know what movies we're going to show her and what order we're going to show them in. And we're essentially skipping episode 1. and just gonna assume that she can pick up all she needs to know from the Clone Wars animated series. And it's and between that and the Lego Star Wars games and all the stuff that they've basically made accessible to children to help bridge that generational gap, Star Wars is something I can do with my daughter. Star Trek, my fandom of Star Trek is something that I can't share with my child yet. And that makes me, as a parent, it makes me kind of sad, but it's still like, I look at that universe and it is I want to share with her.
Because I mean, Star Trek is fundamentally not meant for children as much as Star Wars. Star Wars is a highly simplified morality, even more so than Star Trek. It's much more action, much more cute aliens, much less philosophy and complexity and high level thought. Star Wars is like did you see the People versus George Lucas documentary?
No, I haven't.
I think it's still on Netflix. It's really good. And it's about how much the fans, completely loved George Lucas and worshipped him as a god, and then completely turned on him when the special releases came out, and then even more when episode 1 and 2 and 3 came out, and how people have this love-hate relationship with him. But a lot of it was about like Jar Jar Binks and how George Lucas's vision for the movies was like, there's a lot of things wrong with George Lucas's vision for adults, but like if you ask kids, and they do in the documentary, they say like, who's your favorite character from Star Wars? And kids are like, Jar Jar Binks. And all their parents are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe she said that. It's so humiliating, but it's exactly right. It's that like the Star Wars movies, for one of their purposes is to appeal greatly to children. They are kids' movies, and that's what they're for. And the rest of us being, fully grown adults who live in our childhoods and want to embrace the thing we loved as children, we're embracing what makes life fun from the point of view of a child. And that's just a new geek style thing. But like, it doesn't change the fact that they're not for us. We're not supposed to like episode 1. It's not meant for us.
It isn't. And
we can protect our children from it because we don't like it, but they'll love it. It's a kid movie.
And and I think that's the thing though, right? There are certain movies that are like, and I recognize them as kid movies, but at the same time, I want my daughter to continually engage with complexity. And while there is some complexity there in Star Wars, eventually my hope is that she'll grow into something that is more, that there is more layers to it, right? Where she graduates to Star Trek, and eventually maybe she'll graduate to the rebooted version of Galactica, where there is no black and white, and there is no, like, it's just it's a bit of a dark universe, but at the same time, the light of that universe is that nobody is really evil. There's no real such thing as evil, and everyone is redeemable.
Well, that's a stretch, I think. I mean, Adama's pretty good. He's pretty good. And some of the Cylon stuff, I get that they're put upon, but they're pretty evil.
I don't know. Like, if Gaius Baltar's path is one of ultimate, like, it's of redemption.
Absolutely true.
And
but, like the super bad, like the guy,
the super evil Cylon. Yeah, I know. Brother, what's his face? Cavill.
The one who's from Quantum Leap, that guy.
Yeah. Super mega evil. Yeah, no.
He's like all about himself, and he's even like, the hell with the rest of you Cylons, I care about me.
But it's interesting too, because he's the one who's like, when the Cylons talk about the one true God and stuff, like the faith involved in that, there's this really interesting nuance sprinkled throughout that whole the complexity of all of that morality, and the idea that morality isn't an absolute, it's a relative, and it's a cultural permission rather than a true imperative, right? That's interesting to me. And
I was a teenager. I used to babysit this 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
He loved asking for clarity about good guys and bad guys. We'd watch movies, and he would say like, "That's the bad guy, right?" And I was at a point where I was starting to is in terms of like understanding literature, I was like trying to get away from absolute good and bad and trying to think, well, no one thinks of themselves as bad. They just have a point of view and they think that certain things are important and they're looking out for number one. And everyone's doing that in some way, even if they kind of associate themselves with a larger family, which might be the whole world or it might just be their local group, whatever it is. But they're generally not, like, it's not just altruism versus evil. That's not how the world really works. And I wanted to convey that. And I didn't understand that a 4-year-old has absolutely no capacity for that level. And like, we were watching The Secret of Nim. And The Secret of Nim actually reverses Disney visual tropes about who's evil. Because the good guy who's wise looks terrifying. His eyes are glowing. He's very old and has this long beard and he's very pointy. He's very creepy and he has a scratchy voice and he speaks in riddles. And he just seems like he's gonna eat you. And he's actually Yoda. He's actually just a wise old man who wants to give you advice, but wants you to figure it out yourself. And this 4-year-old who I babysat asked me, is that the bad guy? Because he was genuinely confused.
The visual tropes, yeah.
To understand visual tropes and get cues about morality from the character design. And his looking at that character told him, this is clearly evil, but I just don't see necessarily what he's doing bad. I'm confused. And at that point, I think I just said, no, he's not a bad guy. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He looks like a bad guy.
Well, it's funny because my daughter growing up would always identify with the villain. Always. To this day, she identifies with the villain.
That's interesting.
And so she so we watched Tangled, which is like the Rapunzel reboot Disney did. She's like, yeah, Mama does know best. It's great. And she doesn't really understand that the mother character is evil. And she's like, she took care of her for all those years. Like, she doesn't really get it.
It's your mama. And
mama, right?
Mama's mama.
Mama's mama. So it's fine. My daughter, like, even the My Little Pony, like, universe, there's this super evil, like, pony. It's the changeling queen. She's all black. She's like followed by these weird ponies that are like black with glowing green eyes. They can change forms and they do super evil things. Like they kidnap people and replace them because they can change form into other people. They're pretty much like the Founders, except like they look visually even more terrifying. Those are the ones she's like, oh my gosh, Mom, you need to dress me up as one of those. I want to be the changeling queen. At the Comic Expo. Dress me up like that.
Yeah, I dress as the Joker because I like his style. I like his humor.
Yeah.
And I think he's an interesting character, and regardless of whether he's moral or not, like he's a lunatic who murders people for fun. And so why do I like that? Why don't I dress as Batman? It's like, I don't know. There's something about like, I don't know. I could probably do an hour on why I dress as the Joker. That's has to do with style and gender norms and stuff. But and the fact that Batman dresses as a villain anyway, because that's his thing.
Right?
But I feel like that your daughter wanting to dress as the powerful ones, I mean, that's like we all want to dress as like the cool ones, and cool is powerful but not caring. And that's whether you're good or bad, you're powerful and you don't care. That's what cool means. And but she also, the fact that she doesn't see the morality of Tangled, I think that means that you're a good mom. I think she doesn't have a frame of reference for evil moms. She doesn't see Mommy Dearest as a story. No one's told her that story yet. She's like, well, Mom gives you food, makes sure that you get what you need to go to school, and teaches you things and has fun. That's Mom. And like a lot of kids, moms probably don't treat them as well as you do. And they can probably relate to Tangled a little better.
I don't know. It's really funny because like my daughter for the longest, I don't know what it said, like what it said about me as a parent. Like we were always really uncomfortable with it because like she always like she would watch The Little Mermaid and she loved Ursula, and she just all of these. There's something about the power dynamic. There's something about the amount of the black. There's some. I personally wear a lot of black too, so I don't know if that's something. I think that there's all this stuff that's going into what she sees as easily identifiable.
Is she like me? Does she like laughing? I mean, everyone does, but does
She does.
focus on the characters who make you laugh more than the characters who are sexy or cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like me, same way.
Yeah.
As a kid, I didn't want to be Luke Skywalker. I wanted to be Wicket the Ewok. I wanted to be Wicket the Ewok because he was so adorable. I wanted to be him. And my friend wanted to be Luke Skywalker, and we would make believe when we were 6, and he'd be like, "I'm Luke Skywalker," and I'm like, "Done. I'm Wicket." And we would like
Nice.
in the house doing Star Wars.
But I mean, I think it's just you.
And then when I started watching Batman the Animated Series, like, I would laugh when the Joker said something, and I appreciated that. And I loved Comedy Central when it came out because it was all just stand-up comedians, and I would just study them and watch Robin Williams for hours, and I loved that stuff.
You know what the irony is in that moment, though, the fact that you love the Joker and the animated series. Doesn't Mark Hamill like voice Joker in the Batman animated series?
You're right. I
don't. You didn't want to be Luke Skywalker, but you want to be the Joker.
Mark Hamill is a heroic little whiny kid. I'm like, meh. I'd rather be the teddy bear. But when he's evil and serious, then I'm on board with Mark. And Mark is like the Joker. He's the man for being the Joker.
He's excellent.
And being Luke Skywalker is something that just happened to him. Even Luke's life, it just happened to him. He didn't come at it with like, I came from nowhere and I'm gonna rock your socks off. He sort of was like, I guess he did, but he wasn't making me laugh. So he didn't. He
was so whiny. We talk about Luke Skywalker as the whiny one. We talk about his Tosche Station. I'm gonna get park for Tosche Station. Like whiny Luke Skywalker. That's all of Episode 4 is whiny Luke Skywalker, whining his way around.
Right. And then he gets really cool on Return of the Jedi. And I was just listening to this podcast about. Well, it's called We Got This. These two actors talk about they debate stupid shit. And they were choosing the best Star Wars movie, and one of them was really into it and talked about the Return of the Jedi, like when Luke first gets his green lightsaber, and that if you're really thinking about the story, he lost his blue lightsaber, which belonged to Anakin, his father, because his father, Darth Vader, cut off his hand, and his lightsaber fell down the well. So then he got rescued, got a robot hand. And then he had to make his own lightsaber, like a big boy. He's all grown up, and it's green this time to be different. And that's Return of the Jedi when R2-D2 throws the lightsaber over the Sarlacc give to Luke. It's green, and that's the first time we see him as a big boy, and that he's the badass in the hood, controlling people, killing everybody. And that's cool. It's a story of growing up, basically.
It's also like there's a certain embrace of power in there too, right? Like a Jedi isn't a Jedi master. Like you don't graduate from Padawan until you build your own lightsaber. That's the thing, because you have to be. Apparently, it's like the Force and the crystals, and you need to be able to control the Force to make the crystals not shatter and build your own lightsaber. It's a thing.
I don't know how to make a lightsaber. I'm a trekkie.
But yeah, well, see, and I think that's like when we talk about the anger, like. When we talk about Star Wars fans, and this is what the one thing, right? My house is a divided one. I am a Star Trek fan, true to heart, all the way, 100%. My husband is the one who is the Star Wars fan. He has all the Star Wars tattoos. He read the extended universe. And so...
I liked your video, you and Nathan opening the Star Trek Armada, or whatever, Star Trek.
Star Wars Armada. Yeah, right?
Finding all the miniatures.
And like that's the thing is he and I we have this dynamic where I'm always looking at the complexity, and I think it's just because I'm very much into it's a very common trope of Star Trek. It's no matter how bad you are, there's always something that's redeeming about you, and there's always something that's kind of tragic about your story. You're in Star Trek, you are a product of your circumstance, no matter what, and they do a decent job contextualizing that. When you have some of the more well thought out villains, for example, I'm gonna Gul Dukat is probably one of the examples. I would say like the characterization of Garrick is another demonstration of like this guy kind of is evil, but this guy is kind of evil because he grew up in an evil household. He was taught all these evil things. Like it was like it's not just like him, right?
Yeah, he's the outcast because he's not evil enough.
Yeah, right. So it's like you get all this really yet all this really interesting context, right? They don't really have that in Star Wars. If you're evil in Star Wars, you're evil. You're just evil, right? Like you're a bad guy. You're a bad guy.
Who likes Ursula? I think that reminds me of myself in that Ursula is the funny one. Ursula is the one with all the best lines in Little Mermaid. And did you see the cross-dressed or the whatever it is, the cross-gendered illustration?
Cross-played?
But not cross-play, but illustrations that someone made of all of the Disney villains with their genders reversed.
I haven't seen that one.
And the only one that bugged me a little bit was Ursula, because the artist made Ursula into this dude who looks like Ursula, but he's like got a six-pack. He's thin and buff. And I was like, what's going on with the weight? What happened? Like Ursula's, part of Ursula's thing is that like, she's overweight. No one talks about it because it's no big deal. And that like her power is you know, irrelevant from her weight. Maybe she's overweight because octopuses are kind of roundish, but octopuses could be skinny. They just made her heavy. But look up the. I'm
gonna look it up right now because I find it fascinating. This whole thing is fascinating to me.
Gender illustrations. I think it's all villains. And they just switched a lot of the villains and they made beautiful illustrations and just turned the men into women. Mm-hmm. And it looks really good.
That's interesting.
But the one that stuck out to me was Ursula that I commented a little bit somewhere to say like, you know.
Oh my God, they totally did make them. It's like Fabio with tentacles.
Yeah. Zero body fat. Like bodybuilder, skinny.
You know what that is though? And I'm going to throw that down. This is like one of those products of Yaoi.
What's that?
Which is like that when they take fan art that's boy and they make it sexual. It's boy love fan art. A lot of the artists who draw stuff like this are women, and they end up like creating this art that is specifically appealing to them. So it's interesting in one sense.
Okay.
So it's kind of like slash visual slash fiction, if you will.
It's a little corny. It's a little bit erotic.
Yeah, it's a little bit erotic, and I think that's like when I saw it. Yeah, totally. That's exactly what that is. I've seen that style. I've seen that. That's totally what it is. It's intended to titillate a little bit, if you will. And nobody would ever actually call Ursula necessarily titillating, right?
Only.
And I think that's what's interesting about some of the villains is Ursula was one of the villains who's extremely powerful, wasn't conventionally considered to be titillating in any way. She's just not intended to be attractive. I mean, she's an octopus, right? Like
that's true. I agree. She's not herself intended to be attractive, but she is intended to be sexual and funny.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She's the one who waves her badonkadonk at the camera with a drum sound to indicate that you don't need a voice, a deeply sexist remark, that you don't need to talk to attract a man. Don't underestimate the importance of body language, and then laughs about it after waving her booty as an example to teach the 16-year-old girl how to seduce a human man without talking.
It's so okay, yeah. Like we get it.
Like, Ariel's shocked on many levels. She's like, you're asking me to lose my voice, lose my people, to join a man, and you want me to do what to get his attention?
It's like the voice was just, she wasn't just taking your voice, she's also taking her innocence, but she didn't know that at the time, right? Like
totally.
There was an awakening that was happening in that moment where it's like click, 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 click. Oh,
Ariel's like, okay.
Well, it's like all those moments. I've seen all those like the memes where they like have Ariel and she like gets her legs and she's like, what the hell are these things? And it's the feet. What they're like showing us like, no, actually, that's a vagina. Right. I know you haven't had one before.
We didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about that, did we?
Yeah. Why is there hair on this part? What are these in the back?
Right.
Legs have more things than I thought.
Right.
Legs.
Just legs, right? But yeah. Anyways, we're time. How is your mojito doing? I'm halfway through and a little bit happy. Oh my gosh, you finished it up, but I was pouring a little bit more. Thanks for hanging out with me. We're going to do this tomorrow again on Nerf. Nerf.com/Star Trek Hour. Is that correct? That's the correct URL. Awesome.
Star Trek Hour. Or just twitter.com and search for the Star Trek Hour hashtag if you are not sure you want to check out Nerf. But on Nerf, we'll be on video.
We will be on video, chatting it up all the way again. All right, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Joe.
That's right.
All right, see ya.
See you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.